All right, ladies and gentlemen, according to the polls, Biden is about to have one of the largest victories in presidential history. Do you think it's true? Does anybody feel like that's the case?
Ladies and gentlemen, according to the polls, President Trump is going to have the biggest victory ever over an incumbent, as an incumbent.
No, I don't. I've not seen that poll. What poll are you talking about?
Listen,
Ladies and gentlemen, it depends on what perspective you're looking for.
So
let me
there's
explain.
been a lot of
Let me
news recently, but last week, the polls that I was seeing last week were saying that Biden was up somewhere like 10 points. He had double-digit leads in almost every poll that was out.
Yeah.
And here's
Who do you
the thing.
ask?
Right, well, Rasmussen, right? Like, I mean,
which
the,
is
like the
supposed
real,
to be the most accurate.
the real polls, you know, all of them though. They're all in agreement about Biden being in the lead. The question is like, how far in the lead is he? And I think that there's a real problem with the polls. And there was a study done by Harvard, some Harvard professors recently, and they went out and they basically started asking people. They wanted to find out what the percentage of people who were lying to pollsters was. And so they instead of asking them, the way this has always been done in the past is they said, hey, who are you voting for? And then they would just immediately follow it up with, okay, did you lie to me? So of course you're not going to get people that admit that they just lied to you. But they asked them, you know, basically originally is, do you feel comfortable sharing your true opinions with a pollster? And what they found was 10% of Republicans are not comfortable with sharing the truth with pollsters, and 5% of Democrats are not comfortable with sharing their opinion with pollsters. Now, I'm going to give you the most optimistic for Trump view of this is that those would be 5% of Democrats who are actually going to vote for Trump but won't say it, and then 10% of Republicans who feel like they can't say that they're going to vote for Trump. So you might have a 15% swing, right? And that would be every 15% that Trump gains, Biden also loses. So that's actually like a 30% swing. So this indicates that there could be as much as a 30% swing in the polls come election day. Now, I'm not saying that that's like the maximum, the maximum case. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it does give us an indication. And let me add this before I even say that. There's also a very difficult problem with figuring out non-college educated voters, right? So if you're college educated, the pollsters pretty much know how to get your opinion. Mm-hmm. If you're not college educated, the pollsters do not know how to truly capture that opinion. So you get those two things working together, and there is a huge variability. Even though Biden is up double digits, that may not be an accurate view of what's about to happen.
Okay, listen.
Okay, go ahead.
That's a very good story you just told.
Well,
And I think it's very cute. But let me share this with you. If you listen to our podcast, you've heard me say over and over again that a change candidate, which Trump was, will always be reelected, unless he said stupid stuff like Buddha's a Christ child and Russia really rocks and China is my baby. Now, unless you say
Batman.
Trump says dumb stuff literally
yeah,
every
but
day.
not that dumb. Not that dumb. And so
It's up for debate.
you know, but the thing is, we know what he's saying.
So
dumb stuff, and
I've
we just,
I've
you can
always
throw that out. It's an outlier.
Yeah, I've always said that there's no way possible that the Democrats have put their best in front because they expect
Correct.
to lose this election because it's not really a contest until next
Yeah,
next
we
term.
actually did talk about that when it happened. We were enamored of the strategy behind the Democrats, right? So the idea is that Biden and Bernie were both going to lose to Trump.
Exactly.
Like, it looked super bad for either of those candidates at
Yeah.
that moment, and so they said Bernie would really be terrible down ticket, and they pushed him aside. Biden, they thought, was going to lose, but he wasn't going to be as bad down ticket. Now, the thing is...
This is what, primaries?
Yeah, in the primaries. So the thing is, I think that Biden's becoming much worse down ticket than they expected him to be, and that might not work out for him. But at the same time, it seems like they're going to probably.
This is a throwaway election for the Democrats. I mean, they're not telling the American people that, but usually, listen, if a black guy got in America got elected twice out of all the people who disliked him, there's no way possible the next white guy to get in is going to only get one term.
Well, I mean,
unless
you
he
got
started,
an option of
unless
two
he
white
started,
guys. Like,
unless he started throwing away babies. Because America will always give you two chances to screw up for the most part.
I don't think that's true. Let me tell you
If
why.
you're a change candidate.
So listen though, because if you look at the Reagan era, right?
Yeah, go on.
Ronald Reagan took the spot of Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, but Jimmy Carter was not a change candidate per se.
That's
Jimmy Carter
debatable.
was probably one of the worst candidates in history.
Right.
He
But-
wasn't a change. He wasn't a change
probably
candidate.
the worst candidate to ever actually win the presidency.
But check this out. So Ronald Reagan, not only did he unseat a president, right?
Yeah.
But he took 47 out of 50 states.
Yeah.
And then the next time took 49 out of 50 states.
How many times? So was he? He was a change candidate.
But
And
he
so-
was also articulate, and he had spent a lot of time.
working on his craft.
Well, he had written a book. He'd actually run for president in '66 or '76, right? And then he lost to Ford, who was the sitting president. He lost in the Republican primary. He wrote a book after that, and then on the radio, he basically did what Rush Limbaugh later did, and he sat there and he talked about conservative values, and he talked about some very rational things. Like he put
He basically
together
campaigned for himself.
Exactly. He campaigned for 4 years.
So-
and then when it came time to run, people were laughing at him because he was an actor and a radio personality, and they usually didn't even bother to add radio personality. But then he won because he had convinced the American people over those 4 years that he was going to do good things for them.
One of the things that Reagan did very well was staying on message, and he like Trump.
He was
Trump-
a great communicator.
He was a great communicator, and
Unlike Trump.
but he, like Trump, had a way of disarming his opponents.
Truth.
And so,
They actually, interestingly enough, if you were to side by side them, they're actually quite similar
yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and so-
except that Trump is not articulate nor a good communicator.
Well,
Well, you know,
so
there's a parable.
a good election would have been
Okay.
if you want to see an argument, a great argument in the Republican side, it would have been George Bush and Trump. George Bush Jr. Because George Bush Jr. was a scrapper. You would not insult, like for instance, Trump.
Yeah, but the thing though, that's a big difference, and regardless of someone's opinion of Trump, no one can deny the fact that he is very witty.
Yeah.
He's extremely witty. So
He's funny.
He's
Yeah.
hilarious.
He can
and self-deprecating.
he can
Truth.
he can dismantle you with a so and so is soft. He's
Right.
tired.
You
So
know,
Bush
I
Jr.
love-
wouldn't have stood a chance.
No, yes, he would have.
No, he would
was,
not
He
have.
was snappy.
I love the joke that Trump told about what's the difference between Trump's hair and a raccoon. Well, a raccoon doesn't have a freaking $1 billion. I mean,
That's a great joke.
He told that joke.
Yeah.
He told that joke.
The
So, I
first
mean,
debate, he killed me because Biden says
you'd be in jail.
no. So
That was-
Biden
okay.
says he's starting to I don't remember what the topic was he was listing, right? Examples of to support whatever point he was trying to make.
Yeah.
He said, number one, and then Trump was about to interject, but then Biden said, number two, number three. And without missing a beat, Trump said, you're on number two. And then he started just going off onto what he wanted to say. It was hilarious.
He is a wonderful attacker. So I would love to see him against Clinton.
He can, like, you know how people like in like the neighborhoods have a nickname for everybody?
Yes.
That is like
that was Trump. He was wonderful. He's wonderful there. And so debating him, you have to be articulate,
Correct.
intelligent, and quick.
So who on the Democrat side would have been able to do that?
Obama.
Well, I was about to say, but he
Obama would
he
have.
can't-
They would have had.
That
I
probably
would have
would
loved
have
to
been
see.
the best matchup.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Because because Trump hates Obama.
Yeah.
And so,
well, likewise.
no, actually, I don't think.
Oh,
I think
yes,
I think
sir.
Obama. I think Obama. I know they don't like each other, but I don't think Obama necessarily hates Trump.
I could just see Trump on the stage with Obama. You weren't even born here. Your grandma said that. Your
And
grandma
Obama would
said.
have been like, well, neither was Melania.
You know, they
Yeah,
can-
but she
I
could
mean,
be the first lady and be foreign.
yeah, that's a debate. I mean, the American
Because
people,
Barack Obama was quick too. He was very witty.
the American people deserve, they deserve strong candidates for them to choose.
I agree.
think, and one of David's shows was he spoke about the two-party system is essential for us to have a strong America, and
We need both parties to be
we
strong.
need both
yeah.
parties to be strong,
So they can compete.
and so they compete with each other. And I think that we're missing out. Listen, I am bipartisan, and I vote issues. I care about religious liberty. I care about businesses surviving,
I agree.
and I also care about people surviving.
Agreed.
And so, I vote that way if I'm going to vote. Listen, I am British. You Americans need a queen to rule you like slaves, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. But nonetheless,
My main issue is
Negative
freedom.
Ghost Rider.
And
Freedom
gonna-
has left the building in your conversation, which I'm not going to get on board with.
we need a
we-
queen.
listen, we
listen,
ditched the queen for
we
a
should be
reason.
drinking tea right now. Okay,
No.
but listen,
you know,
all I'm saying.
are you hiding behind your microphone for a reason right now? You don't want people to see who it is who's saying that?
It's not
Wait,
me.
so can you vote?
No, I'm British.
I didn't know if you had dual.
Why are we even talking with you about politics right now? My goodness.
because I am desensitized to both sides.
I
can
actually like
see
that. I
I
like
can
that.
see the issue. I
You're
can see.
objective.
I'm objective. I don't have a.
I
don't
love
have
objectivity.
I don't have a dog in this fight.
Right.
But what I do have.
Neither do I, which is why I try to. I will say that I have probably intrinsic values
Yeah.
that make me probably lean a certain direction more often than not. However, I'm much more policy driven than I am party driven, for sure.
What I'd like to see, what I'd like to see from America, from guys who are watching us, what I'd like to see us really do is to study the issues.
Yes, become an educated voter, people.
Do not take anyone's word for it.
Yes.
And listen to British news
Lis-
about America.
You know who else
because
you
they
need to
tell the
listen to?
BBC, they tell the truth.
Oh,
And
they do not. They do not.
The
They
BBC
just. They are
God save the Queen. How
biased
dare you?
in the same way that like NPR is biased.
Do you know who you need to listen to? Sky Australia.
Aus-
They are the best. I listen to them during the day probably more than anybody else.
And you'll hear the truth about American politics.
You do. And you also hear the truth about China. You hear the truth. That has probably been one of the most gosh, it's been a great news source, I have to say. Like
You know, I gotta say, I love news sources that don't endorse candidates.
Yes.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
Epic Times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's they actually recently did a commercial where they said that, and I was like, wow, that is a really good argument. Why are all these news sources or these newspapers like telling us that we should vote for Biden,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
clear what their
expecting us
leaning
to
is.
believe that
Yeah.
their reporting is somehow accurate
Right.
about the race?
I'll tell you why.
CNN likes to try to pretend that they're objective.
They're not.
They're not.
They're not. They're not. Not at all. The Fox, CNN, they're all drinking from the same.
But I think the one thing I will say about Fox is I don't think they try to come off as objective.
No, they don't.
Right, but
They're-
CNN does.
they don't.
CNN
They have
likes
no
to play
desire.
this game like there's some. Maybe they were. I will tell you, I'm a journalism major, right? Anderson Cooper used to be my jam because he used to do these kind of like on-site reporting situations
Yeah.
that I thought were fantastic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's just become part of the machine at this point.
Well, you have to. You know why? Because we did a show, we did a podcast, and I forgot which one it was. I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, and we discussed the owners of all the media centers. When I say media center, meaning ABC, NBC, and a lot of these organizations are owned by individual corporations, and these corporations have a party line, and so. Gone is free of reporting. Do you know that the radio stations have also been have been de-democratized, and they're also owned by corporations? And so a
Which
lot
serve a party.
which serve a party. So our radio, our television, the only last bastion that we should have for freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and true information really is our foreign news here in America.
Right.
We have foreign news, and we're supposed to have the internet, but that's crazy sometimes too.
Currently.
Social media, social media is. I think this is actually. I wanted to talk about this, but social media thinks that it was co-opted in the last election to support Donald Trump.
Correct.
And I think there's actually a really good argument that they are no longer going to worry about their power come the end of this election, because right now they're doing everything they can to put their finger on the scale for Joe Biden, and it's not going to work. So I think they will realize after this election that
Well, they're shooting themselves.
they
in the
don't have
foot
to
right
worry
now.
about any of that. They can't really control the election. People are going to figure out what's going on, and you've got enough like small
But some
thought
people
leaders
don't. That's
in
the scary
communities.
part.
Well, but enough people do. Like there are
I don't
definitely
know.
there are definitely people who don't figure things out.
If you
But-
look at it generationally, like we have, think about our youngest sector of voters, right? In
Yeah.
this election, they are whoever has watched what's it called on Netflix? Social, gosh,
But they are the most conservative generation starting out ever.
no,
I mean,
no. These
but-
kids are the most progressive because their colleges have formulated them to be that
so
way.
once they get out of college, there is a drop or a situation that occurs, right? But the kids that are in high school right now are the most conservative.
Right, but
ever.
they're not voting. I'm talking about 18 to probably 24.
I get that. Okay, but
I don't know if
so
that's
the colleges
necessarily.
have always.
I don't know if that's
pushed people
necessarily
towards
true.
liberal.
I don't know if that's necessarily true because in our grade schools, and if you ask teachers, they are really interested in social engineering with our kids.
That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
The kids coming out of college.
Yeah, and we're catching that.
I'm
a
talking
lot
about in
now
grade
because-
school. I'm not talking about
no,
in
but that's
elementary
where it
school.
starts.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then you essentially have it fester, starting in grade school.
And parents
all
are starting
through
to
upper-
catch that because of these kids that are going to school at home now, because of the
Yeah,
distance
it's
learning
true.
that's occurring.
It's true.
So you're seeing a lot of those people,
But
and then
the
they're
kids
like,
that are voting, let's say some that are voting for the first time this election, right?
Mhm.
That they are a product of this kind of like education machine, if you will, and they are not conservative. They are extremely progressive, and they are shaped by social media.
Yes.
So you have these kids who,
I
whatever
concur.
social is putting out, that's where their views are.
well, so I think that's happening.
Even if their parents don't have those views.
But still, that's college educated, and what they're still missing is they're not capturing the non-college educated yet, right? So even if the polls have the same problem figuring out whether a generation is conservative or liberal, then they're going to have that they do when they're trying to figure out whether somebody's going to vote Republican or Democrat. Then I think that basically we can see the same kind of skewing in those polls. People are afraid to be canceled right now.
Truth.
So they're not going to tell people. They don't feel comfortable. And there's another poll that was done that said people who are conservative, solidly conservative, slightly conservative, and even slightly liberal do not feel comfortable more often than not expressing their actual views.
Because they don't
The-
trust their anonymity.
The only group, but this is just in society, the only group that actually feels comfortable speaking up and saying what they believe is far left liberals.
Yeah, because they're the accepted viewpoint right now.
They are the corporate viewpoint and
Correct.
the media viewpoint and the viewpoint that is getting pushed.
But unfortunately, what I'm finding out is what the media pushes is not what's the word is not opted by the voters for a lot of things, and for a lot of things when it comes to a lot of people will vote default, and
Truth.
so
And the
if
Democrat is the default party.
no. Democrat is definitely not the default
I think
party.
that depends
It
on
depends on your
where you
culture
are, yeah.
and where you are
Yeah, it does.
and how you've been socialized.
Truth.
And you can't help but develop how. If you've told your, if you
Yeah, but with the media pushing the Democrat Party so hard,
Yeah.
it becomes a
the
default party for
media
most
is
people.
not pushing the Democrat Party.
Yes,
that
it
They
is.
absolutely are.
no.
Yes, it
Not,
is.
not the media is not pushing and I'll tell you
The
how.
media creates the narrative.
Yeah,
they just came out
okay.
okay, so the
Look,
New York Post came out with this story about Biden, and they're coming
Yeah.
out with more stories, but like the New York Times went and basically tried to debunk it
Yep.
immediately without even looking into it.
Well,
and
listen-
the whole media, NPR tweeted out, I think earlier today, that it was a non-story, it was a distraction, and there's no reason for anyone to look into it.
Yep.
Let me explain. The media is not pushing out democratic values. The media is pushing
No,
out.
they're pushing out the Democratic Party.
the
Democratic
media.
values are nowhere to be found.
The media is pushing out
It's oxymoron.
power.
That's
The media is pushing out power for the media. Listen, I believe that a lot of the media moguls themselves, they're Republican, and I believe that they're pushing out what they're doing exactly what Disney's doing. Disney began pandering to its populace, which was down with the patriarchy. Women are great, and women are great, by the way. My mom's a woman. Women are women are great,
My
and men
mom's
a
a
bad.
woman, my sister's a
My
woman.
sister's a
But,
woman.
but
you know.
they're demonizing
wife's
a
a
group
woman.
of people.
Not mine.
In order
That's
to do
the problem.
in order to do so, and then my point is the same thing with and do the officials in Disney really feel that that the men who run Disney are bad? No, they don't. They run it. But my point is that it's expedient to get the people to rabble rouse, and I think that that's what our saying that Trump is bad or the sitting president is bad usually is good for rabble rousing, and that's what they're doing. They're rabble rousing. So when I say they're active, listen, everybody knows that the sitting president always gets 2 terms if you're a change candidate. Look at it through history. Any change candidate gets 2 terms usually, unless you screw up royally. He will get
Or
2
unless
terms.
there's a lot of shady business with the election.
All right.
Well,
so,
yeah.
I mean, we do have. There are some things that could lead you to believe that Trump may not get reelected. However, voter registration has also been a boon for Republicans this time around. Usually, like in 2016, for instance, there were more Democrats registered than Republicans. But this time, you actually find that in most of the key states, Pennsylvania, Florida specifically, you get more Republican registrations than Democrat registrations.
Yes, because
So-
this is a conspiracy because they're throwing the Democrat ratings ballots away.
No,
the
These
same
are
argument can be made on the other
registrations.
side.
Exactly.
These are voter registrations, not voter ballots.
Listen, they
Now we've seen a lot of stuff happening with voter ballots,
Mm-hmm.
but that has been it has cut against both sides, and there's no way to really tell how much of that is occurring.
yeah, that has not been corroborated. I'm just being funny.
Well, so there
True.
are
But it is- it
videos
has
of people.
Yeah.
There are videos of large amounts of ballots getting thrown in the
Or
trash.
the ballot box that got lit on fire in California on Monday.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. And apparently they know exactly whose ballots were in there, and they're going to account for them.
Yes, of course
is the
you
story.
are.
That is the story.
Listen to all you guys who are ballot burners and who, because I remember I said earlier in one of the other shows, it's about power. It's not about what's best for America. For all you guys who are ballot burners, listen, we were founded by the people, for the people. Trust the process.
Yep.
You broke away from England so that you could have a process that you believed in. And so since you broke away from the Queen, God save the Queen, since you broke away from the Queen and from the Crown, why don't you trust the democratic process and don't cheat?
So-
Here's my problem with the polls. This is why I don't trust what the polls say, because there's another poll, which I'm using a poll to prove my distrust in the polls, which is an interesting situation. But there's another poll that came out that said 56% of people actually feel that their lives are better right now than they were in 2016.
Right.
So if that's the case,
That's a
then
better
how are the
number than-
polls essentially the reverse when it comes to the candidates? So that's why part of me thinks that the lead of Biden isn't true.
It might be manufactured.
Right. But then I wonder, well, maybe this 56%, who are they polling to get this data?
Well,
That's always
there
the
you
question.
go.
Like, who are they calling? Who are they, that's my biggest
What if
question with
that's
polls.
depressed?
Right.
What if that's actually 65%?
Right.
Now, and the thing is, it's tough because obviously right this second, things aren't exactly peachy. And there's a lot of people out of
A little
work.
bit discord.
But the thing is, I think this is an outlier because most years people blame the economy on the president, but enough happened this year that the president specifically tried to keep the economy open,
Right.
and it was Democrat governors that specifically closed it. That I don't think he can be blamed for that.
But they're still blaming him.
The media is still blaming him.
Correct.
But are the voters? That's the question.
Well,
I
Yeah.
have.
the leaders are, the
The-
party
yeah.
leaders are,
There's no one
local and national.
There's no. The only thing that you can literally I want to say literally that you can literally attempt to blame Trump for or a sitting president for are the deaths of COVID. But anyway, we got to close things down. We are out of time.
I'm going to say this. There's a parable in the Bible where a guy has two sons, and it comes time for the harvest, and he says, I need your help tomorrow. And one of them says, yeah, sure, Dad, I'll help you out. And the other one says, I'm busy. I can't go. So the one that told him he'd help him out goes out there, goofs off with the bucket for like a couple minutes, and then leaves. And the guy who said he wouldn't help out goes out and helps with the harvest all day long. Now, which one of those pleased the dad? The one who said that he was going to do it and didn't, or the one who said he wasn't going to do it but then did it?
Second one.
And I think that's where Trump is right now. Trump is the guy who we all basically complained about the way he talks, but we like the way he acts.
Some
And
of us.
okay. Some of us like the way that he acts. I think that's the important thing. Is not what you say. At this point, for me, it's what they've done, and I like what Trump has done, and I do not like what Biden has done.
I would agree.
All right, guys, that's pretty much it for this segment, and we will see you next time.
Bye for now.